We surveyed after the fourth quarter our staff and our parents on what their experience was with the fourth quarter and how the online or the virtual learning opportunities were. Then we surveyed our families on their thoughts about returning to work and, returning to school for their children, and our staff on returning to work. I will tell you that no matter when we did the survey and the results, it seemed that the next few days, the information changed coming out of the state. The results changed, and lots of emails. We want to take the survey again. We've changed our mind, or we're having second thoughts. A lot of calls, survey us again. And we recognize a survey is a snapshot in time. It represents the thoughts and the feelings at that point in time. And in the environment we're living in, it just seems that every day there's a new directive or a new thought or new plan or new statistics, and it is just an absolute moving target. Initially, our parents, the initial survey was 65% of them wanted to return in person. About between 25 and 30% of them were undecided. They wanted more information. And we had about 5–6% said they didn't intend to return to school in person. And most of the mitigating, we asked what would help you make a decision. And a lot of them, well, what are we going to do to keep our schools clean? What safety precautions are in place and those kinds of things. So we're trying to address all those issues. Now, if we were to survey today, I'm sure not 65% are ready to come in person under normal procedures. So
right now, we have approximately 78% of our parents when online, when in-person learning is available, about 78% of our parents want to return to the classroom. We still have 22% of our parents as of last week that still want to stay online if something does come available in person, but they're just not comfortable with the in-person setting at this time with everything going up. Now, I will tell you that as the projections for Arizona don't look so well, more and more of our community members are choosing the online version. So the survey that you completed yesterday may complete it different today.
Right. In June, and where we had close to 3,000 parents respond to it out of our 4,000, there were 3,000 parents that probably spoke to about 3,600 kids out of our 4,100 kids. And one of the things they had a struggle with in the spring was all these different software programs that a child was learning on, Edgenuity and Pearson and Khan Academy. And if you had multiple kids in your household, you may have 6, 7, 8, 9 different software programs. By utilizing this program, it's really the teacher teaching, just like they would be in a class, and we don't have to rely as much on software programs, and therefore the teacher's more comfortable, and the parents can see what's taking place, and they don't have to understand passwords and logons and all those things for all these different software devices. So we're going to do that training the week of the 27th, and we think it's a unique way. There are other districts. We're not the only district. They're here in the Valley as well as around the country that are using this device, but we felt it addressed many of the concerns that our parents and our staff had about what happened in the spring, and that was our intention when we surveyed people, was to see if we could come up with a better plan based on their input, and that's what we tried to do.
So
our board, the Chandler Unified School District Governing Board, approved 2 options, giving 2 distinct options to those that wanted their children to resume in school, so they could choose an in-person model, or those that wanted to keep their children at home with limited exposure to others in an online format. That would be K-12 for each. Our online format is through Chandler Online Academy. We are customizing and enhancing all those options. In a typical online format, you're not used to a lot of interaction from a the teacher, other than a check-in and so forth. We're enhancing that so there is increased teacher interaction. The other would be in person. Since a few days ago with the governor's executive order, we are going to continue with those two options, but we will offer it all virtually. So if a parent chooses an online format, they will start online. We're asking them to commit to at least a 9-week or a quarter. And then the in-person, if they want the in-person, they would start virtually using our Google Classroom, interaction, structured lessons every day with the teachers. And then they would transition to in-person when we are allowed to open our schools. So we're offering two distinct options. The all-encompassing debate on face coverings, our board did vote to support the Maricopa County, and we're in 3 different cities. And Chandler and Gilbert, as you well know, went with face coverings. So they did want all students and teachers to wear face coverings during the day when the 6 feet social distancing couldn't occur.
With this is that no matter what plans we have today, they could change tomorrow. We know that in the ever-changing world of COVID-19, we have plan A, B, C, D, and all the way through Z, because every day something changes on us. So, but currently at this time, we do have plans to start remote learning on July 27th, and then continuing that as long as we're not able to meet in person. There will be 2 options. You can start on remote learning July 27th with the option of when in-person learning takes place, you will transition back into the classroom setting. Or if you're not comfortable, if you want to continue with the online learning, then we will have that option for students too. But starting on the 27th, we felt it was important to get something going because we don't know how often and how long this is going to be dragged out by the Governor Ducey or by the state of Arizona. So we could be in for a virtual educational system for many more months. We don't know what the future holds. For sanitization protocols. And so we've bought cleaners, we bought hand sanitizer. We've hired more custodians across the entire district to help with those areas that need sanitization. We have high volume areas that will be cleaned regularly throughout the day, and so we'll have a custodian that just does circles around the building, cleaning restrooms, doorknobs, high touch areas, you know, anything that needs to be cleaned on a regular basis, we'll have someone assigned to that. Nights and weekends we'll do deep cleaning, and so we'll have some of our special cleaners that come in that can kill the virus within 1 minute. Be placed throughout our classrooms on evenings and weekends to make sure that the sanitization process for our schools is completed. You bring up a very good topic. We would love to have an opportunity to have some kind of hybrid model, but with the governor's executive order, the hybrid model that we can have also makes us open the schools for the same number of days, for the same number of hours that we had before COVID-19 hit. So even if we had a hybrid model, let's say that 50% of our kids came on Monday and Wednesday, and the other 50% came on Tuesday and Thursday, we have to have an opportunity for those other 50% of the kids to be on campus for some kind of educational opportunity should they choose. And so the hybrid model in theory is great, but the way the state has set it up for us is not practical, and really all of our teachers K-12 will be using the Canvas learning management system, and so teachers will be able to go in and plug their lessons or plug their assignments into the Canvas program, and students will be able to go in there and complete their assignments, watch their videos, join online instruction virtually like we're doing here today, you and I, and so they'll have lots of opportunities to utilize the Canvas system to help create a learning environment that's at home. Probably not the best learning environment in the world for children. We want to have them back in schools, but it's much better than we had last year. Still reviewing that, and we're still taking a look. We know that the state says that within the first 6 weeks we have to do an evaluation of student progress, And so we've got those tests and those platforms ready to roll. And so we'll know where students are at and know how much learning has not taken place that we need to make up over the year, and then maybe offer some opportunities for learning during fall break and spring break, and then some summer opportunities that come up for the 2021 summer school year too.
The governing board last week went ahead and we've decided to push back the official start for the kids till the 3rd of August. We would have normally started July 27th. We will still have our teachers come in on their normal time, so new teachers show up this Friday the 17th and our returning teachers show up on the 21st. But we're going to take the extra week to do some staff development for our teachers because we're going to move ahead with our virtual for at least obviously 2 weeks as of right now, between the 3rd and the 17th. And we've tried to come up with a slightly different plan maybe than some other districts of how we're going to provide education. We're calling it virtual. We're giving our parents choice. They can do virtual or in person. Obviously in person can't start right away. But what the virtual is, we've purchased devices called Swivel Devices. And what it does is it's a device that you can put an iPhone in, or you can put a phone in, you can put a tablet in, or you can put an iPad in. And then the teacher wears a microphone, and you can put microphones around the classroom, and the device and the iPad just tracks with the teacher. And it almost becomes like another person in the classroom. And so he or she would look, and there would be a stand with an iPad in that would be like another student. All the students would be virtual. As she or he is talking and writing on the board, it's picked up by the device. If I was to be showing a concept, I was a biology teacher, if I was to be talking about a concept on the board, and then I wanted to go over to demonstrate an experiment, I could walk over to the experiment area, the camera would follow and continue to pick up my voice because we have the microphone. That's how the camera knows where to follow the teacher. We get very good, clear sound from the teacher and a good look at the screen on what's taking place. Kids can go ahead and ask questions. The reason we selected this device was because we knew we'd have some kids at some point in time in person and some kids virtually. They would remain the same, and it didn't matter whether we go from one to the next. So if we're closed, we're open, we're closed, we're open. It really doesn't change anything. The teacher's allowed to teach what they've normally taught. The device actually records the lesson that can then be stored on Google Drive, and so the student or the parents can go back and listen to the lesson that night. So if they were doing some homework and they had a question on, geez, I wonder what the teacher was really trying to explain this concept, boom, they can go in and they can take a look at it. So and then we have a survey out right now. We're still waiting for the results to come, the final results. We put it out last Thursday. Right now, to be honest, we're running about 70% of the parents would like their students back in person, 30% would like them virtually. And so if on the 17th schools were to open up, then we would make an adjustment. Again, for the teacher, the only difference for the teacher would be all of a sudden on that Monday, there's kids in class, but the other kids that are online continue the class just like they did before. The kids in class see the same thing because the teacher's up at the board writing. The kids in the classroom can raise their hand, ask a question because we'd have microphones around the room. The kids at home can hear what the question is from the students around the room. If the student at home wanted to ask a question, the kids at home, or excuse me, the kids in the classroom could hear it. So we think that'll be as least disruptive as possible when we get back into an in-person learning. And we know at some point we will get into that. Just the question is when. As of right now, like you said, it's the 17th. There'll be choice. The biggest piece will be for those that want to go stay virtual or go in person to virtual. It can be fairly seamless, and we did that because obviously there's the possibility that some students may contact COVID-19 during the semester, and then or just in a general situation, I picked up the flu, or in some cases we had some parents that talked about trying to work around vacations that maybe got missed in the summer. They could go on those things, and again, they can learn from anywhere. So it really doesn't impact their ability to learn, even if they're somewhere and they're not feeling real well and they're not up to learning online because they're sick. Because the lessons are being taped, they can come back later on and play back and learn the material that was covered. If you're going from virtual to in person, our recommendation would be at the natural breaks, be it a quarter or semester, And that's just because, again, depending on how many kids are in the classroom, we're still trying to the extent possible have social distancing and some of those issues taken care of. And so it just gives us a chance to plan. If we had a very critical situation where the move had to be made, we're not going to stop parents from making it, but we'll work with parents and students to make what we think is the best move at the best time. So it gives that flexibility. A lot depends. Again, when you take a look, if we stay with 70% want to be there and 30% don't, in a classroom, if we have grade level with 2 teachers of 50 kids, and we have that 30% that don't want to be there, there's a good chance that that would mean about 7 kids in each class, which would mean we'd have a class of about 20. So we can just about get 6-foot distancing in that class. For the upper grades, it's a little bit harder. So we're going to have to do the best we can with the social distancing. The same with the bus. We seem to have we're checking to see how many people are going to ride our bus. We seem to have a little lower number than we have in the past. So that may allow for more social distancing on buses than we initially thought, but until we start to put the names and the routes together, we'll have to wait and see. But there will be times where we cannot maintain the social distancing. We are not requiring masks at this time. Pinal County has not been requiring masks, and so our board has said we're strongly encouraging. And those that don't feel comfortable when you can't have 6-foot distancing, that would be a time that you could wear it. So we would encourage that. We have tried to take a look at our lunches as an example and our recesses. At the elementary level, you usually have 2 tables that come up and kids sit facing each other. Well, we'll just have 1 table and all the tables will sit facing the same direction, and we'll spread the kids out. At the middle school and high school, we're looking at multiple lunches. We usually have 2 lunches. We'll look and say, can we do 3 or 4 just to get fewer kids in the lunch area. We won't have our assemblies like we normally would. So there's different things that are happening that we're trying to take into account how we can limit when the kids come together. But there will be certain times we have kids entering and leaving from designated spots. But again, it just depends on the situation as to whether you can feasibly have social distancing in every single setting. And it's just, it's not going to be possible across the board, so we'll make adjustments accordingly.
So as you know, we have a modified year, under normal conditions, we have a modified year-round calendar, Chris, that would have put us back into the classroom on July 22nd. And with the governor's executive order this past week?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, seems like last week. That moves the start date to August the 17th. However, our board chose to have online learning start on August 3rd. And so what that means is, what that looks like for us is we have 2 basic options. And so the one option is really kind of a short-term online learning option that will have those families and students that choose this option will go into this online learning with their real Queen Creek teacher. And then once the school is deemed safe to occupy, those students will just transfer right back into their real school setting in the brick and mortar school. So again, key points are it's led by the Queen Creek Unified School District teachers. It's live instruction, in-person details. It's going to be safe, implemented contact limiting measures in place, and increased sanitization measures in place. And all of the reopening plan details are found on our website as well. Option 2 is for a family that doesn't feel comfortable. Maybe they have some health conditions that they're worried about, or they just don't feel comfortable, Chris. They will go through our Queen Creek Virtual Academy. We've always had a virtual academy, and that is really for a long-term online option for families that the option is it's the same learning sequence as the district. The classes are offered through Edgenuity. It's pre-recorded, and those students could transfer back into the brick and mortar school at semester. So in a nutshell, that's kind of the 2 options that will begin on August the 3rd. So, we have, that's a long answer to a short question, and all of those details are outlined in our detailed reopening plan. A lot of the considerations are, there's social distancing measures that we've put into place that eliminates the overlap between lunches, or we've delayed assemblies, we've delayed field trips. We're doing our best to limit contact And if back in June the 2nd, we went to our board and shared a tentative reopening plan that had just a laundry list of considerations, Chris. And if you look on our website, all of those considerations have detailed just many, it's probably several pages long. There's many different details of what that looks like in each of those consideration areas on the website.
And what is that website, Dr. Barry?
It's www.qcusd.org. Chris, to the best of our ability, you know, of course, in a school district like ours, it's one of the fastest growing. We just hit the 10,000 student mark this week. We were up almost 800 kids. Even in light of the COVID, we are growing leaps and bounds. We are going to do our best to eliminate large gatherings, try to have smaller groups, try to stay with students in grade levels as opposed to cross grade levels. There's a lot of different seating arrangements that can be designed with our flexible furniture with staff. That's going to be left up to the principal and the teachers in those areas, because every room and every set of furniture is different. But yeah, all of this is kind of outlined in better detail on the website.
I did have that crystal ball. This is my personal opinion. I'm very concerned about children not being in school and having the opportunity to establish relationships and have those interactions that are so valuable in our development. And so I guess I'm hoping and praying that we get back to in-person education like we knew it in the past. I am an eternal optimist, and I think that we will. It's going to take time, and I guess I'm cautiously optimistic. I don't want to rush it so that we keep stepping backwards, that we can get back to school as much as normal as we knew it. I think the online format will, across the country, is going to gain some momentum. I've had more meetings with Zoom and WebEx and I think Teams, and I think businesses are going to find it's a more efficient way rather than traveling across the country for a day's meeting. But I see more technology as part of the educational, but I still think we will get back to pretty much normal pre-COVID. That's the direction we're hoping to go. And it's one of the actions the board did take as well is we're going to delay. We're a year-round school, one of the original, and we were scheduled to start on the 22nd of July. And due to all this, the ever-changing landscape, our board decided to, or approved us starting on August 5th, which was more in line with the rest of the state. That bought us some time. And we are providing really more sophisticated training, more than we had planned to at the beginning of the year, to our staff. We're going to have certain outline of expectations regarding how much interaction and what opportunities our children have relative to the curriculum. And we just want to give our staff opportunity to really get familiar with the online. It's very different from the in-person, and that'll help us be prepared. And it gives our families a little more time to explore both options and determine what's best for their kids. And we know everybody's struggling with the decision right now, and we just don't want to rush them and be available to all the questions they have. We're going to be putting out in the next day or two an extensive question and answer document. We've kept a list of all the questions parents are asking, and we want to provide those answers and put them in writing so that it's consistent across the board.
I think online virtual learning is here to stay. I know that Higley Unified School District is starting their Arizona online instructional programs, and so students can seamlessly move in and out of programs during the quarters or at the younger grades whenever they feel comfortable. And so we'll be able to offer lots of opportunities to meet the needs of individual families on their comfort level with returning to school or pulling out of school when they see fit.
Good. That brings me to a question about the sniffles, right? So particularly the K-8 kids could end up missing school because of illness. Is that correct? If they have signs of an illness, they just need to stay home?
That is correct. We are relying quite heavily on our parents to help monitor their kids' signs of sickness. And when they are sick, we hope they stay home, along with our staff. So if our kids or staff or employees have any sickness signs, then they need to stay home and protect everyone else. But with that being said, too, we'll also have protocols in place within our nurse offices for students that are getting sick and monitoring that, too, and send them home when it's appropriate.
Dr. Thomason, is there anything else that you'd like to add that we should know?
Well, I'm very thankful for our community who's had patience and understanding while we go through this. This is not something that teachers or educators want. We want our kids back in the classroom. We want to be able to teach. That's why we got into this profession. And I'm so grateful for the teachers that teach in Higley Unified School District because they have really stepped it up. They've done a 360-degree turn in the middle of March and then continue running fast forward as hard as they can, and they're doing an absolutely incredible job. We're so fortunate to have an incredible teaching staff here in Higley.
Yes, and actually that's where we were going. We had a program called #Forward, or initiative movement called #Forward. Last February we had about 300 school people from around the country come in to see what we were doing. The ultimate goal of #Forward was to create an individual learning plan for each child and really maximize their learning through both in-person and virtual learning. So that's kind of where we're moving anyway. I think this particular situation has accelerated it. What does that finally look like and how finely tuned is that is probably what's going to happen over the next few years. But I do think, just like in the business sector where all of a sudden you realize, well, maybe we can work from home more than we thought, I think this virtual piece and how we meet kids' schedule, the reality is an in-person schooling is the best experience for a child, but it's the slowest experience for a child, where kids can go online and learn sometimes at their own pace. If they have a schedule that they have to work or they have to take care of a sibling or something like that, the movement to videotaping and or online and the ability to have it for a lesson later on is probably going to change what we do and how we meet the needs of families and kids more so than ever before. So I do see that as a very big change that will take place in how we deliver education to kids over the next decade or so.
You know, I think a couple of things with this pandemic is it could have some unintended consequences that are positive in nature, like we are really using technology a lot better. I think that the benefits of technology in education has been something that we've talked about in school districts throughout the country for a long period of time, and now we've got this platform to really explore. And I think that you're going to see moving forward some possible blended learning models that we might not have seen without this. So could be a good thing down the road. It's also shown us that there are unique inequities that exist among students, that some students might have limited computers and Wi-Fi connection at home that creates online learning inequities among families that we have to deal with, and that becomes challenging. And we're just committed to trying to pivot and to provide flexibility and some learning options that are high quality in both scenarios. But I think that just overarching answer to your question is that it's going to drive us to the use of more virtual online learning opportunities in the future.
PPE and cleaning equipment and sanitization. So it's been very, very expensive for school districts to get going on that. But we feel like we don't have a choice. We have to offer PPE for all of our staff. If they need something to be successful in the classroom or virtual learning, we will make those opportunities for PPE and other equipment needed available to them.
Has there been any talk of reimbursement through the state and through the federal programs?
We do know that we have some CARES money coming, but the CARES money is not nearly enough to pay for the cost of what we have to do, especially with the hiring of new custodians, especially with everything that's taking place for the sanitization of our buildings. We have air scrubbers that we're putting in schools, and so the air is circulated and cleaned every 30 minutes. So we have continualization of cleaning classrooms in large areas, cafeterias, gymnasiums that we've installed at some of our schools.
The reality of the situation is the cost is such that there are any number of things that we said we can't do. So what we ended up doing is saying, okay, with the CARES Act dollars, those are the federal dollars that go to public education, and the amount of money we received there, then we just started with the list of those things that we could cover. There are any number of things that we would like to do that just aren't practical. Some people don't understand if you start to look at numbers and do simple math, sneeze guards for every single desk if you wanted to put up some sort of physical barrier. By the time you look at what the cost and the pricing out is and how many desks you have and how many kids you have, you very easily in our district with that one purchase could be in excess of $1 million. And so we've put a good portion of those dollars into the swivel technology and the iPads because we thought that was key to everything we do. And so that is where the bulk of it went. We'll spend it on some other things. But if there's no new dollars, then it becomes a case of doing, I hate to say it, but the best we can with what we have. That's the reality of the situation. I know there's lots of people with lots of ideas of what we could do, but at the end of the day, it is about dollars, and we have to make them go as far as they can. But we'll easily spend over $1 million on a variety of things associated with what we need to do to make this work, and it could be upwards of $1.5 million. We'll be taking it out of other pots of money because it's little things. If you're going to give teachers an extra 5 days of staff development, that's a cost. At this point, we're trying to keep people employed, especially our classified staff, so we haven't pushed them off. We're bringing them back in a normal time so that they can pick up their health insurance, especially if you're a new employee. So all of those things have costs associated. Some built into our budget, others not built.